Hello, Queen Kiro here, and this is my first little Dead by Daylight tutorial I'm making. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be going over safe and unsafe pallets and also the God pallet. In DBD, pallets are usually referred to as safe or unsafe, and I've been asked many times on stream what this means and what makes a pallet safe or unsafe. I've also seen many players, mainly newer ones, get confused over the term God pallet. I will go over what this means over the course of the video. This video is the first of a series I plan on adding to over time. These videos will go over questions any new DBD player might have. Feel free to leave any common questions in the comments that you'd like to see in a video, or one that just might be helpful to someone. I might even answer the questions just in the comments itself instead of making a whole video on them because they're supposed to be short and simple. I will start by going over safe and unsafe pallets. A safe pallet is a pallet in which a survivor can throw and literally be safe. There really isn't much mind gaming when it comes to a safe pallet. In most cases, a good killer won't try to bloodlust it and just break it and move on with the chase. I'm not saying you'll never get hit or get a hit around a safe pallet. There's things you can do, and some killers even ignore them. But in general, safe pallets are a great time waster, and it's always best to look for one around you. I'm going to show you around the Gideon Meat Plant, which is a map with a crap ton of safe pallets. This map can be an M1 killer's nightmare. This room right here has 2 pallets that are considered very safe. A good survivor will try to keep these pallets up as long as possible to get the most value out of them. Since the survivor and killer can always see each other, and the walk around it is pretty long, there are no mind games that can really be done here. I like to try to avoid going here if I know the survivor is really good, depending on the killer I am playing. You may see me playing like a bot or like a W gamer in these clips, but it's just to easily make an example and make it as clear as possible. Now I did want to mention there are some safe pallets, and the ones I have specifically in mind are the Macmillan box loops and the Auto Haven truck loops, where they can kind of be in the middle of safe and unsafe depending on how well you play around them, but to keep the video short and simple, I didn't want to include those examples and kind of over-explain things. Now on to unsafe pallets. Unsafe pallets are literally the opposite of safe pallets. You're almost guaranteed to get hit or get a hit at these pallets. They can be good for a couple loops sometimes, but it's usually not a good idea to stay at one very long, especially if you are injured. Some examples are many of the pallets on the Hawkins lab. 90% of the pallets on this map are unsafe besides the 2 in that one room, but that's a different story. This specific pallet right here is a great example of an unsafe pallet because it's god-awful and pretty much a meme because of how unsafe it is. It's never a good idea to walk in here, even as a last resort, because there's no way you don't get hit. Pallets like these, and another example would be the bottom ones in the temple, are pallets that are never a good idea to try to play around because it doesn't require anything special for a killer to do to get a hit at these. Now last but definitely not least, there is God pallet. God pallet is always referred to as the pallet in the killer shack, which is a structure on most of the maps in the game. Now a God pallet itself is a pallet that cannot be mind game or bloodlusted, but shack is considered so special and a player might get mad at you for throwing it really early or at 5 gens because it's not only the pallet, it is also the building itself. It has a window that can be used many times, and as you can see in this clip I've been bot vaulting it over and over just for an example, but even after entity blocking the window, the player might not even use the pallet right away. That's how good this pallet could be. Now I mentioned that God pallet is referred to a pallet that cannot be mind gamed or bloodlusted, so I wanted to show just 2 more examples of what these pallets can be. Now there's this one on Leary's, and I show you that you cannot walk around the entire room next to it to get to the other side because the survivor has way too much time to react and vault back over it. And then there's also this one on Midwich, which is basically the same idea. There's only the stairs and there's no room around to get to the other side. Now that is it for this video. I really didn't want to go into too much detail. Like, for example, I could have talked about how there's killers like Doctor and Huntress who don't really care about Shack, but that's a story for a different day. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and excuse me if it's not the best, because this is my first tutorial video, and please give me ideas for the next one in the comments. See you next time.